been lied to, big time. Those healthy vegetables you're eating every single day, they're not burning fat. They're fueling your belly fat, igniting chronic inflammation. Right now, spinach, kale, beets, potatoes, corn, loaded with razor-sharp oxalates, gut-wrecking lectins, and thyroid-killing goitrogens. They're stabbing your cells, draining your minerals, leaking your gut, and exploding inflammation. That stubborn belly fat, the joint pain, the endless fatigue and brain fog. This is why. You've been betrayed by the very foods they told you were super. But today, everything changes. I'm exposing all 7 of these deceptive vegetables, one by one, and handing you simple, delicious swaps that crush inflammation, melt belly fat fast, and give you energy that lasts all day. Do not click away. Watch until the very end because the #1 worst offender will shock you, and the swap for it could transform your body in weeks. If you're tired of being stuck, drop "Stop the Lies" in the comments right now. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss the truth that big food doesn't want you to know. Let's take your health back. Starting now. 1. Spinach. Spinach is the first vegetable I want to talk about, and this one surprises a lot of people. For years, spinach has been promoted as a superfood, something you should eat every day to be healthy. But what I often see in practice tells a very different story. Spinach is extremely high in oxalates, and for many people, that's where the problem begins. Oxalates are what we call anti-nutrients. Instead of helping the body, they can accumulate in joints and tissues, quietly contributing to joint pain, stiffness, and ongoing inflammation that seems to have no clear cause. Oxalates are also linked to kidney stones, gut irritation, and stubborn weight that just won't respond to diet or exercise. Under a microscope, oxalates look like tiny sharp crystals. That detail matters because those sharp crystals can irritate the lining of your gut. Over time, this irritation may disrupt digestion, and in people who are sensitive, contribute to increased intestinal permeability, often referred to as leaky gut. When the gut is under constant stress, inflammation can spread throughout the body. Another issue most people are never told about is mineral loss. Oxalates act as chelating agents, meaning they bind to minerals and pull them out of your body. Minerals such as magnesium and calcium are essential for mitochondrial function. Your mitochondria are responsible for producing energy, supporting fat burning, and keeping your brain sharp. When minerals are depleted, people often describe feeling constantly tired, mentally foggy, and frustrated because their body doesn't seem to respond the way it used to. When oxalates bind to calcium in the body, several things can happen at once. The gut lining becomes irritated, nutrient absorption is impaired, joint pain and inflammation can worsen, and the risk of calcium oxalate kidney stones increases. Many people notice symptoms like bloating and gas, especially after green smoothies made with spinach, muscle cramps, burning with urination, lower back discomfort, persistent fatigue, and brain fog. Because the brain has the highest concentration of mitochondria, mineral depletion often shows up there first. To put this into perspective, spinach contains about 750 milligrams of oxalates per 100 grams, making it one of the highest oxalate vegetables available. A common belief is that cooking spinach solves the problem. Unfortunately, clinical experience and research suggests that cooking does not significantly reduce the oxalate load for those who are sensitive. For these individuals, spinach can remain a heavy burden on both the gut and the kidneys. The good news is that you don't have to give up leafy greens altogether. Lower oxalate options like watercress, arugula, and steamed broccoli provide antioxidants and nutrients without placing the same level of stress on your body. Pay attention to how you feel after eating different greens, because your symptoms are your body's way of giving you valuable information. Before we move on, let me ask you this. Have you ever felt bloated, unusually tired, or achy after eating spinach or drinking green smoothies? Comment yes or no below. I read the comments, and your experience can help others recognize what their own body might be reacting to. 2. Swiss chard. The second vegetable I want to talk about is Swiss chard, and this one is often misunderstood. Many people choose Swiss chard thinking it's a gentler, safer alternative to spinach. But clinically, I often see the opposite, especially when it comes to kidney stress. Swiss chard is very high in oxalates, particularly in those bright, colorful stems that are often praised as extra nutritious. For some bodies, those oxalates don't stay harmless. They accumulate quietly, creating internal stress long before you realize what's happening. Like spinach, the oxalates in Swiss chard can build up in tissues and joints, contributing to joint pain and morning stiffness that seem to worsen over time. They also interfere with calcium balance. When calcium is repeatedly bound and pulled out of circulation, it can increase the risk of osteopenia and osteoporosis, especially in adults who are already concerned about bone health. This isn't something you feel overnight, but it slowly chips away at your structural foundation. Mineral imbalance is another major issue. Swiss chard can inhibit the absorption of magnesium, a mineral involved in more than 400 vital processes in the body. Magnesium is essential for muscle relaxation, nerve function, blood sugar control, and energy production. When magnesium levels drop, people often report chronic fatigue, muscle tightness, poor sleep, and low stress tolerance. Zinc absorption can also be affected, which matters for immune strength, hormone balance, and metabolic health. When these minerals are compromised, the body struggles to recover and adapt. The symptoms can look unrelated at first. Some people notice tingling or numbness in their hands or feet. Others wake up with stiff joints, develop unexplained skin rashes, or feel a vague sense of kidney discomfort. What's concerning is how often Swiss chard shows up in detox routines. Juices, sautés, and daily green bowls are meant to heal, yet in some cases they quietly create mineral depletion and added kidney strain. This leads to confusion and frustration. You follow the advice, eat more greens, and still feel worse. That's not failure. It's your body signaling a mismatch. A simple shift can help. Romaine lettuce is a much gentler choice, offering hydration and nutrients without the heavy oxalate load. As you listen, think back over the last few weeks. After meals with Swiss chard or green-heavy dishes, did your body feel lighter or more drained? Share what you noticed, even if it seemed minor. 3. Beets. There's another vegetable that often flies under the radar because it carries a very functional reputation, especially in the fitness and wellness world. I'm talking about beets. They're commonly promoted for circulation, endurance, and heart health, and on the surface that sounds appealing. But when we look a little deeper, especially through a metabolic and gut health lens, the story becomes far more complicated. What helps one system on paper can quietly stress another in real life. Beets are frequently praised for their ability to support nitric oxide production, which can improve blood flow. That part is true. However, nitric oxide can be increased through several other foods and lifestyle strategies without the same trade-offs. What's often glossed over is that beets also deliver a significant sugar load, roughly 10 grams per serving. For someone who is metabolically healthy, that might not be an issue. But for many people, especially those struggling with weight, insulin resistance, or blood sugar instability, that sugar changes how the body responds. On top of that, beets contain oxalates, similar to spinach and Swiss chard. In individuals who are sensitive, oxalates can worsen inflammation and contribute to joint discomfort. When you combine sugar spikes with oxalate exposure, the body may shift toward fat storage and inflammatory signaling rather than healing. While the nitrates in beets can be beneficial when the gut microbiome is robust, many people dealing with metabolic issues don't have that advantage. In those cases, beets can trigger sharp rises in blood sugar and insulin. This is where I often see frustration set in. People add beet juice or beet powder to smoothies expecting more energy or better workouts, but instead they experience a crash. Commercial beet powders are especially problematic because they're often highly concentrated, delivering both sugar and oxalates in a form that's easy to overconsume. The result can be a brief boost followed by fatigue and mental fog. Common symptoms include tiredness after meals, noticeable energy dips after beet juice, brain fog, joint aches, and even migraines, particularly in people who are oxalate sensitive. These are not random reactions. They're feedback from a body that's struggling to regulate blood sugar and inflammation at the same time. There's also an environmental factor worth mentioning. Beets are root vegetables, meaning they grow directly in the soil. Depending on where they're grown, they can accumulate heavy metals, including cadmium. Cadmium disrupts hormones and damages mitochondria, the very structures responsible for energy production and metabolic health. Over time, this adds another layer of stress to an already taxed system. The goal isn't to demonize food, it's to choose wisely. You don't need beets to support circulation or gut health. Celery, fennel, and radishes offer similar benefits without the sugar spike or high oxalate load. They're anti-inflammatory, low in sugar, and far easier on the gut. 4. Kale. The fourth vegetable I want to address is kale, and this one is especially important because it's often viewed as the ultimate health food. On the surface, kale looks like a nutritional hero, but in certain bodies it can act very differently. Kale contains compounds called goitrogens, which can interfere with normal thyroid hormone production. When the thyroid slows down, everything downstream is affected: energy, metabolism, and weight regulation. Kale also contains oxalates and thiocyanates, which can further disrupt iodine uptake. Iodine is essential for thyroid function, and when its absorption is impaired, the thyroid struggles to do its job efficiently. To make matters worse, kale frequently appears on the Environmental Working Group's Dirty Dozen list, meaning it's often heavily treated with pesticides. Many conventional varieties are sprayed with glyphosate, a chemical known to promote inflammation in the body. Glyphosate doesn't just irritate the gut, it acts as a mitochondrial toxin. Mitochondria are responsible for producing energy in your cells. When they're damaged, people often feel exhausted, foggy, and metabolically sluggish. Combine mitochondrial stress with thyroid suppression, and you have a perfect setup for low energy, slow metabolism, and stubborn weight gain, even when someone is eating clean. The symptoms are familiar to many people watching this: a sluggish metabolism, cold hands and feet, constipation, difficulty losing weight, and persistent brain fog are all common signs of a thyroid that isn't firing on all cylinders. What concerns me most is how kale is often consumed. Juicing kale concentrates both the goitrogens and the pesticide residue, dramatically increasing the load on the body. For thyroid health, that's often doing more harm than good. The solution isn't to fear food, but to make smarter choices. A much better option for many people is fermented vegetables. Foods like sauerkraut and kimchi support gut health, reduce inflammatory burden, and are far more thyroid-friendly. Fermentation changes how the body responds, turning a potential stressor into a supportive food. As you listen, think about your own experience. If kale has been a daily staple and you still feel tired, cold, or stuck with your weight, that may not be a coincidence. Pay attention to how your body responds. Those signals are valuable information guiding you toward better health. 5. Potatoes. The next food on the list is potatoes, including both white potatoes and sweet potatoes. They're often viewed as simple comfort food or a clean carbohydrate, but metabolically, potatoes can behave very differently than most people expect. Potatoes are a high glycemic starch, meaning they raise blood sugar quickly. When blood sugar spikes, insulin rises as well, and insulin's primary job is fat storage. Over time, this pattern strongly encourages belly fat accumulation and makes fat loss harder. Potatoes also contain lectins, especially concentrated in the skin. Lectins are anti-nutrients that can irritate the gut lining in sensitive individuals. When the gut barrier is stressed, digestion suffers and inflammation increases. Many people notice they feel heavy, sluggish, or mentally foggy after eating potatoes, even when portions seem reasonable. That fatigue is often tied to both gut irritation and rapid blood sugar swings. Another important factor is that potatoes belong to the nightshade family. For some people, particularly those with joint pain, autoimmune conditions, or chronic gut issues, nightshades can trigger inflammation. On top of that, conventionally grown potatoes are often sprayed with glyphosate before harvest, increasing toxic load and further stressing the gut and metabolism. This combination can quietly worsen insulin resistance and inflammatory signaling. When all of this comes together, potatoes can drive fat storage, intensify cravings, and create a blood sugar roller coaster. Common signs include an energy crash a few hours after eating, bloating or puffiness, facial redness, mood swings, and frustration over how difficult fat loss feels. In some individuals, potatoes may also contribute to autoimmune flare-ups by keeping inflammation active. What surprises many people most is the glycemic impact. In certain forms, especially when mashed, white potatoes can spike blood sugar faster than soda. That doesn't mean everyone must avoid them completely, but it does mean they're far more powerful than their natural image suggests. Better options exist. Cauliflower mash offers comfort without the blood sugar spike. If you choose sweet potatoes, Japanese sweet potatoes tend to be lower glycemic and gentler on the gut. Turnips are another excellent alternative, providing a starchy feel with far less metabolic stress. 6. Eggplant. The sixth vegetable on this list is eggplant, and it's one that often causes confusion because it's widely used in healthy cuisines. Eggplant belongs to the nightshade family, a group of plants known to trigger inflammatory and autoimmune responses in sensitive individuals, particularly those dealing with arthritis or chronic joint pain. While not everyone reacts the same way, for certain bodies, eggplant can quietly amplify inflammation rather than reduce it. Eggplant contains a relatively high amount of lectins and alkaloid toxins. These compounds can irritate the gut lining and damage the tight junctions that hold the intestinal barrier together. When those junctions weaken, intestinal permeability increases, commonly referred to as leaky gut. Once the gut barrier is compromised, inflammatory compounds can enter circulation more easily, worsening autoimmune activity and systemic inflammation. Clinically, I often see eggplant linked to joint pain, stiffness, and brain fog in people who are already dealing with immune sensitivity. It can also exacerbate skin-related autoimmune conditions such as eczema and psoriasis, leading to flare-ups that seem unrelated to diet at first. Because inflammation is systemic, what starts in the gut can quickly show up in the joints, the skin, and even energy levels. The symptoms to watch for are usually consistent: achy joints, morning stiffness, unexplained rashes or breakouts, autoimmune flare-ups, migraines, and chronic fatigue are all common signals. These symptoms don't always appear immediately, which is why eggplant often flies under the radar. People may eat it regularly without realizing it's contributing to ongoing inflammation. Interestingly, traditional Mediterranean cultures have long recognized that eggplant needs special preparation. They typically salt and thoroughly cook eggplant before eating it, which helps reduce lectin content. Pressure cooking is particularly effective. In contrast, Western diets often include eggplant that's undercooked or fried, which concentrates inflammatory compounds and makes it harder on the gut. If eggplant seems to bother you, the solution doesn't have to be extreme. Simple swaps can make a big difference. Zucchini, peeled and well cooked, is a gentler alternative. Asparagus and mushrooms are also excellent options, offering nutrients without the same inflammatory risk. As always, pay attention to how your body responds. Those reactions are valuable clues guiding you toward better balance and long-term health. 7. Corn. The seventh food I want to cover is corn, and this one is especially misleading because it's often grouped with vegetables. Technically, corn isn't a vegetable at all, it's a starchy grain, and that distinction matters more than most people realize. On top of that, the vast majority of corn consumed today is genetically modified and heavily treated with glyphosate, which adds another layer of stress to the body. From a metabolic standpoint, corn is problematic because it's rich in amylopectin a type of carbohydrate that can spike blood sugar faster than white bread. When blood sugar rises quickly, insulin follows, and that combination strongly promotes fat storage. Corn also contains a protein known as zein, which behaves similarly to gluten in the gut. In sensitive individuals, zein can irritate the intestinal lining and worsen digestive discomfort. Corn doesn't stop there. It also contains lectins and is prone to mycotoxins, which can develop during moldy storage conditions. This is especially concerning because corn shows up everywhere, in chips, cereals, cooking oils, tortillas, and even foods marketed as healthy. Many people consume corn daily without realizing how often it's sneaking into their diet. When corn is eaten regularly, it can disrupt the gut lining, worsen insulin resistance, and feed harmful gut bacteria. Over time, this creates a cycle of chronic cravings and carb dependency. People often notice they want more carbohydrates shortly after eating, even if they've just had a full meal. Common symptoms include persistent carb cravings, belly fat that won't go away, bloating, gas, and flare-ups of digestive conditions like IBS. One fact that often surprises people is that over 85% of corn in the United States is GMO. This corn is frequently treated with glyphosate, a chemical linked in research to endocrine disruption, gut dysbiosis, and potential fertility issues. That combination, blood sugar spikes plus chemical exposure, can quietly undermine metabolic and gut health over time. The good news is that there are better alternatives. Butternut squash, cauliflower rice, and coconut flour tortillas provide satisfying texture and versatility without the same blood sugar impact or inflammatory burden. So that brings us to the end of the 7 vegetables we covered today. The goal of this video was never to create fear around food. It was to help you recognize that what's labeled healthy doesn't work the same way for every body. If you've been dealing with stubborn belly fat, joint pain, inflammation, or low energy despite eating well, this may finally explain why. If this video helped you see things more clearly, please hit like and share it with someone you care about, especially someone who's been frustrated with their health and can't figure out what's holding them back. And don't forget to subscribe to Senior Health Guard and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. I also want to hear from you. Out of the 7 vegetables we discussed, which one surprised you the most? Or have you noticed symptoms after eating any of them? Leave a comment below. In the next video on Senior Health Guard, we're diving into a very controversial topic: eggs. I'll explain why I consider them nature's multivitamin, how just 4 eggs a day may support fat loss and reduce inflammation, and whether eggs actually increase heart disease risk.